Much of the discussion surrounding the expulsion of Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott from Liberal caucus has been surrounding whether or not the Prime Minister had the right to expel them without consulting caucus, or indeed should caucus have had a vote. A lot of the other discussion concerns, as the Prime Minister said, a supposed lack of trust, or whether or not Wilson-Raybould had the right to record a phone conversation held with Michael Wernick, the clerk of the Privy Council office. To me, a lot of those things are side issues. The salient issue here should be the issue of prosecutorial independence. And that is where I think the Prime Minister has really gone astray. The prosecutorial independence is a basic tenet of a democracy. There are three pieces to the judicial system. There's the police who investigate crimes, the prosecutorial system, which prepares the case and decides whether or not charges should be laid, and if so, what charges. And then finally, there's the judiciary, which hears the cases and then decides guilt or innocence. At any level, no one in a position of power should be able to call the police and say things like, hey, I don't like SNC-Lavalin. Why don't you start an investigation against them and see if you can get them charged? Or any more than they should be able to call a judge hearing a case and say, how's that case going, Judge? This is the way I'd like to see it head. And that sort of thing. Well, that's exactly what the Prime Minister did in this case. And not only the Prime Minister, but also Gerald Butts and Michael Wernick too. And possibly even Katie Telford. We're not positive on that one yet. But realistically, any representative of the Prime Minister or the Prime Minister himself in the September meeting he had with then Attorney General Wilson-Raybould to try and get her to change the mind of the Director of Public Prosecutions is interference at the worst level. And it should not be tolerated, and in fact was not tolerated by Wilson-Raybould. Now, she ultimately fell on her sword on that principle, but I think good on her. And I think shame on the Prime Minister for trying to interfere in the independence of the prosecutorial system. And in fact, it may be well up to the RCMP to determine whether or not that was an attempt at obstruction of justice. There's much more to this, but very little of it, in my view, has to do with the optics or the politics of the situation. I think it has a lot more to do with the attempted interference from the most powerful office in this country with the prosecutorial independence of the Attorney General's office. I think that's where the real problem lies, and I think that's where the focus should be by the pundit class and certainly by the public and the major media. For True North, I'm Leo Knight.